because of the West being misrepresented by the globalist elite. Some people say it's the Rothschild banking cartel who controls the West. Many people have different opinions. Alexander, when you look at America 20 years from now, how, okay, so first question here, how do you think that civil war in the United States will start? Do you think it will be, by the way, I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump. I don't support him, but whether you don't like him or not, he's got a huge following. When you look at Donald Trump right now, do you think it will be him being put in jail, or do you think he'll be assassinated? And how do you think, what do you think the civil war in America would look like? And then after the Civil War, knowing after the West has collapsed and lost its dominance, what do you think America will be in 20 years? Because some people say America should be like a socialist country. So there's a guy called Haas, for instance. He's you probably heard of him, Haas, and he believes that America should be a socialist country because he's seen the success that socialism has done with China. So what do you think? Like, how do you think the Civil War will start? What do you think it will look like? And where do you see America 20 years from now?
First of all, I would say that we need from the beginning to set the some frames to our vision of the future. So there are two Wests. There is not only one West, but there are two Wests. One West is represented, we can call it actual West. Actual West. The actual West, West number one, is represented by globalist liberal elite, by Biden's administration, by Blinken, by Democrats, by Rothschild, by Federal Reserve system. So that is the globalist West that could not tolerate not to be unique, not to be dominant, not to be hegemonic, not to be unique capital of the world. So that is globalism. There is nothing against the West. Everything is either West, other we should fight against that. So it's global West, the global West represented by global elite. Not necessarily they should be Anglo-Saxon, French, or German, or Jews. They could be of any color of skin. They could be African, but they should be globalists. So globalists, for example, as Sunak, Rishi Sunak is Hindu, but being Hindu, he is totally Anglo-Saxon, liberal, globalist kind of person. So he's more Anglo-Saxon than many other Anglo-Saxons. So that is not about the ethnicity. Global West, it is about the form of the rule based on liberal ideology, sexual gender politics, artificial intelligence, and technocracy. So there is the West. And this West is in decline and in agony. So it tries to exist, and it tries to fight multipolarity at any price. So that is suicidal, extremist, totalitarian West. That is already here, and that is actual West. That is Orwellian West, not socialist, but liberal capitalist West. That is pure totalitarian regime of third type. There was first totalitarianism, Soviet communist, there was second totalitarianism, fascist, and there is third liberal totalitarianism. And there is another West, the West that is potential, the West number two, that represent, I presume, majority of the Western people, society, majority of the men living in the West, Western or not. They don't want absolutely this suicidal politics. They are obliged in the totalitarian rules and the communism. I lived in the communism. I know what costs the individual opinion. Nothing. So individual opinion in modern days, liberal, globalist, totalitarian of some people who disagree with them costs nothing at all. So they could be regarded as non-existent and being at the same time the majority. So this silent majority of the not liberal, not globalist West I think that is the other West, the West number two, that could potentially accept multipolarity, defending Western values, Western culture, but inside the system based on the recognition of the validity and the legitimacy of other civilizations. So between them, there will be the war. But not between us and the West. Between us and the West, the war is already going. There will be the new kind of the war inside of the West. So Western civil war. We could see the elements of that in the Europe, but if we are speaking about United States, I think that in spite of himself, the Trump, and more than that, Trumpism, in Trumpism we trust, not so much in Trump, but in Trumpism we trust. The Trumpism is a kind of new symbol of point of coordination, of intersection of many different, absolutely opposite groups of people in the United States. They are united only by the rejection of the rule of these globalist democratic elites. I think that majority of Republican Party is on the right, and some elements, as for example Kennedy and other isolated person in the Democratic Party as well, share this general opinion against globalism. So if the situation will aggravate, if they, for example, Biden falling down the old, totally mad, totally stupid old man, considering that Trump is in very, very better form during the election, they could decide this beast, apocalyptic beast that represent the globalist rule, could decide to kill Trump. And I presume it could be the start of the civil war in the United States as well. I think we see what is going on in Texas. In Texas, the state powers, they decided to stop uncontrolled immigration on their territory, taking the control against the federal government of the part of the border with Mexico. So something like that could make the United States to explode. And I think it is logically inevitable. Between these two Wests, West number one and West number two, there is no dialogue. The West number one, in the totalitarian style, pretends that there is no West number one. There is only West. There is no the West number two. There is nobody except the globalists themselves and their total control. They don't recognize the other inside. Outside, they don't recognize the other outside in the multipolarity, in the plurality of the civilizations, and they don't recognize the other inside of them. So they're absolutely fanatic, extremist, crazy, and they have the rule over the West. That is very dangerous. And there is the second, the West of Trumpists, of all kinds of people who just don't share with the globalist agenda. They could easily accept multipolarity and they could prosper and live as they want without global hegemony, just occupying of their problem. But if Trump, for example, wins, if he manages to not be killed by these crazy old perverts and junkies, and transgenders, so he could avoid the civil war. So if Trump wins, if the much more normal politicians in the West than present day, not pro-Western, very with dignity and responsibility of their own tradition, but accepting multipolar rules. If they win in Europe, in the United States, civil war could be avoided. But I have maybe only in the United States with Trump, there is small chance that they could win legitimately. And maybe the globalists would start in their turn the civil war. So because they are losing everything, so they will be judged, they will be hanged. The people like who will survive all that, the people like Blinken and Kamala Harris, they will be hanged on the trees. They will be tortured because what they have done to their country, to their civilization, to the people, starting the bloody wars, helping to the terrorist organization to kill, to organize genocide in Gaza, mass killing of people in Ukraine. So they should take responsibility on they will be judged and killed, all of them, all globalists. So they are in the corner. They could not let the normal powers to win, because they will be obliged to respond on for their atrocities and crimes. So I think they could start as well civil war. So and in the Europe as well, I see no elements of the peaceful transition from the West #1 to the West #2, because or dialogue between them. Not necessarily there will be alternative West #2 that should win. It would be very good for all humanity, for the West itself, but the West #1 cannot just begin the dialogue with the West #2, because they immediately blame the West #2 to be Putin's agents, to be fascists, to be extremists, to be anti-feminists and anti-Semites and all other things. So I think that I would be happy if the West could avoid civil war, but it is very, very unlikely.
Mm-hmm. So, Alexander, right now, as we all know, the Court of South Africa, the ICJ court, is holding the apartheid state of Israel guilty, for their crimes they've committed against the Palestinians, which is brilliant that South Africa is doing that. Why? I've got two questions. Why is it that Russia is kind of in the middle of it, not siding with it, especially China too with that? And how do you see that court case going? Do you think they will find Israel guilty or not? How do you see it going?
So, first of all, I am absolutely sure that that is symbolic action, very important and very serious question, to blame the killers, to perpetrators of genocide. And that is kind of the show of the iron will to defend the laws and the principles of the humanity against the global dictatorship that is already here. So I appreciate very much the decision of the Southern Africa. I think Russia is more or less shares the same position. Maybe Russia, but you should understand, we have our own war. Now we have our own war. The problem of the Palestinians and Houthi should be resolved. The problem of the challenge of Israel should be responded by Islamic civilization. We could not afford more war. We have our own war, and we are going to win it. And that demands from us all kind of concentration of all powers, of all potentials, of all resources. We could not artificially create new front line. We just could not afford that. So we are not in the brilliant position. We are winning, but it is not yet the victory. The real victory will follow after the fall of the Kiev. So and we are concentrated to do that. So we could not permit to ourselves to enter to the war and to blame Israel and to say that there is genocide. And I think that is clear challenge to the West, not to the Israel. Israel is just the part of the West. So I think that is now, I sincerely am convinced that now is the turn of the Islamic countries to show their colors, because they blame the West, they criticize the West, but when the moment come to defend their brothers in faith, some of them, as Bahrain, join anti-Houthi coalition. That is despisable. I think that Emir of Bahrain is as good as dead now, because he will be obliged to be responsible for his actions, because of the pure betrayal, joining Western coalition against Yemen. It is pure act of the betrayal. But I think now that now is the turn of the Islam to deal with Israel and to deal with the West. We are fighting our own war against the West in Ukraine. Now I think that is the moment to fight Islamic war against the West in the Palestine and Gaza, and Islamic world refuses to do that. So we are not in the position to change the balance in this situation. We are not second pole. We are just one of the multiple poles fighting radically for our sovereignty and for our revival. We are not in the position to lead a new war, and this war should be led by Islamic countries themselves, and that is very, very symbolic that Southern Africa is siding with the just cause and that genocide, defending poor Palestinians killed every minute. We are speaking now, and the Palestinian babies are killed, and women's and men's and the civilians, and they are killed, and they are killed, and they will be killed. And I think that Israel, under our eyes, is losing its moral position in the world that was a kind of compassion to them after the Second World War. View the victims of the terrible and horrible politics of the Hitler and Nazi Germany persecuting Jews. Now the Jews are in the positions of the butchers. They are now in the position of Nazi, killing the other, declaring
the Zionists.
Yes, Zionists. So I think that is a great change now. So those who were considered to be victims, a kind of eternal victims, and that all our sympathy was on the side of these people suffered so severely during Second World War. They now are showing totally different image of themselves. So I think that is irreversible. So Israel never will be the same as before, and I think that it's quite possible that the modern Israel will cease to exist